Slade and Dr. Flores.
Good morning.
Not a big agenda this morning in December, but we have a couple of action items. Part of your packet. The first is to approve engaging Fisher Fry Consultants, a little memorandum from Mary Jo. This is to help with our literacy efforts in our priority schools. It's being funded through the Community Foundation, so there is no Board of Education dollars, and we appreciate the partnership with the foundation in supporting this effort. So the initial part of the contract is $3,500, but what they do and how extensive we engage them, which will be determined after the first couple of meetings, that could go as high as $180,000. So we thought we'd make you aware of that, bring it to you at this point in time, and get your concurrence to take it to the board and meeting to get things all in place for when we engage them. And the other item is a purchasing agenda. As you can see, that there's just one item on that. It's again a $38,400 contract for some curriculum development information. So we'd ask that take a look at those and approve those and take them to the next meeting.
Will it be that meeting?
Hey.
Today. Is that
Oh.
Yep.
just clarifying things, you guys, too.
Thanks for that, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
I have some questions. Are these two particular consultants tied to specifically the challenge grant? I mean, they written into that GRCF grant?
Those particular consultants are not tied directly to the grant. Certainly, the grant obviously being funded through the foundation, and they are committed to support the efforts in that area. So my discussions with Mary Jo is she is aware of these folks, aware of their expertise. It's certainly been cleared and approved by the foundation. These are folks that are capable of doing that.
It's certainly a lot of money. Question with respect to consultants in general. Do we bid out on a normal basis? I mean, do we do multiple bids? Do we ask for bids to describe our work, put it out in the field, and request responses for those? Or do we just identify a person that we think is a guru and say, we want this person, and then negotiate a contract with them?
It depends. We do both. Clearly, by law, we're not required to bid service-type contracts. Practically, we try to do as much as we can, but in certain situations and particular needs that we have, again, depending on the situation, sometimes we'll bid, sometimes we'll identify organizations and consultants in this case and directly negotiate with them. You may recall a couple months ago, as an example, I brought to this body 2 or 4 underwriters for a bond. And again, that was competitive. We identified 4 people that responses from. We selected one.
So
Situation because of the need. And I will tell you that there has been an effort on our part to actually engage and hire some literacy help that we employ, but it's just been very difficult. We have not had luck in getting the expertise we need, which is in the meantime, things are not moving anywhere. So that's why we made the decision to engage as consultants to get things going.
Okay, so for clarity's sake, we do not have a policy or a practice of bidding out for consultants, correct?
Not directly.
Okay, using competitive bid process. Do you believe there might be a need for that?
Can I?
Go ahead, yeah.
Because from my side, for architects and engineers, we cannot competitively do them by law. But what we do is have them submit a proposal, we put put out a request for proposal, identify the areas of expertise. So we will narrow it down by the most qualified. So it's a qualification-based selection with the fee that comes with it as a secondary point in the decision-making. So that each type of consultant may have its own separate rules. We would do the same for construction management. So ours is a little different.
The construction-related expenditures are, there are different, more specific rules. The non-construction-related stuff like this, again, there's not a particular requirement. It's a general business practice where appropriate. We do competitively bid these consultant agreements, but not in every case is that true. Again, because in many cases there's a specific need, and we're aware from a past use of a particular consultant that they meet the specific needs of our organization and negotiate directly with them. In some cases, as you're aware, when we're funded with, when these things are funded with grant dollars, the grantor they have specific organizations they want us to work with as a condition of the grant.
Right, but that's not the case in this particular.
I don't know the answer. I don't know specifically. All I know is that this was not. These folks were not selected without conversation with the foundation. I think in this situation, again, being foundation dollars, if the foundation approves this, folks, then that's, from our perspective, that's sufficient vetting, if you will, since they're footing the bill.
Okay, but we don't have a full description of the scope of work or any of that.
It hasn't been fully determined yet. It's pending this, I think this week, actually, a conference call, discussion of needs, and that's why it could be as much as $180,000, but we don't know until we get into the discussion and they come out and determine just exactly what we're looking for. Madam Superintendent, I know you're involved in the discussion. Anything more you can add to it?
So the ASCD consultants that we are asking the board to approve are those that both Mary Jo and I have vetted, along with the challenge scholars. And you asked if there is a process. No, there is no process for the board to vet per se. It is the process of the board to approve or not approve.
Well, clarification, was your question more, does the finance group, or is there is that more the question, do you guys go through a process in general when choosing and hiring a consultant? And certainly in some places there are RFPs, and then other times there are not.
No, we don't. We do. We look at, based on the need, we go to the people that are in the know. So we seek out the knowers, the experts in the field, and then we decide as a cabinet.
And you did this also with the Challenge Scholar?
Yeah. The funders.
Yeah, with the funders. Which I think is pretty important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and they've got an excellent reputation.
They've got the money.
Yeah.
And it's their money.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
And a long track of success. I mean,
Sure.
It's not as if we're just partnering with people who don't, haven't worked with us and haven't helped us improve education for children. So I think, any other questions, concerns?
Well, I understand the founders, or the funders, I'm sorry, of these grants will certainly have some input, but I don't know that they have selected this particular expert or set of experts for the grant, and that has not yet been determined conclusively. The question is, how we go about, in general, contracting consultants, and that was my question. If we rely specifically on our knowledge of experts in the field, well, I think that's what Ms. Neal has said, that, her and her cabinet basically identify people who are in the know, which is somewhat subjective, but, there's subjectivity to everything.
Absolutely.
So, that was my question. It is a lot of money, and so that's why I'm asking the question.
Point of clarification, Dr. Flores, it has been determined conclusively that the foundation didn't identify, but that they are in agreement discussion, so that is true.
Which is very important. Since it's their money.
Do
you need?
Is discussion complete? Shall we have a motion, or is any
Sure, I'll make motion that we approve.
support? Is that a yes, no?
No, I'm not supporting.
Not supporting. Okay.
Yes, supporting.
Your support. Okay, so those in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign?
No.
Okay. Now, it's still a majority, so I believe it does pass, and this will go for more discussion later today regarding this item to the full board at our work session. Next item is the purchasing agenda. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support? Yes or no?
Actually, I had a question.
Oh, sorry. Yep, go right ahead.
Did the purchasing agenda include the other group? I think it was Maynard Thompson,
That's
the other consultant.
right, the 38,000.
Wonder if we might
Page 3
If
of
we
the
might have that
packet.
discussion a similar discussion on that group, because there was no information given to them. And, I tried to Google these folks, and some of the stuff that I Googled up, raised questions. There wasn't a lot of information out about them. There's nothing in the packet to describe just who they are, what they are. When I went to Google Docs, it said corporation not in good standing, but, whatever that means. So, again, what are they doing? What is the scope of work? How was it determined? What process did we use? Those are the questions that come to mind immediately. Not that we have to, micromanage, but I think that there ought to be a process for this board to in a way, recruit from the field experts that have particular knowledge that cover the scope of work that we determine needs to be covered. And
Well, I
so
think
those are my questions, my
Yeah.
concerns.
Yeah, that is an overreach of the board again. And I think there are, we don't really have drilled down that deeply in terms of managing day-to-day operations and things of that nature. So, you can talk with the president.
Well, I will continue to articulate my concerns in the area because we have a history of contracting consultants and, with large amounts of money that, I have concerns whether or not we're getting our return. And in an economy and a budget that is somewhat constrained and resources difficult to find, to fund direct education, classroom instruction.
Right.
Whatever we spend, I think, should be spent wisely, and so those are my concerns.
I think part of the concern, too, then, is, how do you determine that after they've been here? How do you have, then, an end report about were ends achieved, and 2 years later were ends achieved? So, I think, once again, that's another great topic to bring up with Dr. Baker and the board in general later in this work session in terms of staying at a high level and doing the analysis may be beneficial. So I will second the motion, and we can vote again for this purchasing agenda, or vote for the purchasing agenda. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Great. Passes, and we will go on to reports, updates, and discussions.
First item there is, excuse me, November financial statements. Just a couple of comments, and I'm looking at the financial dashboard, which is a summary sheet through 5 months of our fiscal year, and our total revenue as compared to prior years up 1.5%. I think I talked before during budget time, just and proven out over the last number of years that our revenue largely controlled by the state, as you're aware. Probably not going to see much more than 1% increase a year. Foundation allowance, and for the first 5 months, we're tracking about that level. On the expenditure side, there are some timing differences here. These are some based on a cash basis, but we're about 12% below a year ago in our total spending. A piece of that is in our health benefit area. Brought to the board, we had gone through a dependent audit last year and realized some savings from that and some other areas, health insurance area. So I think we're seeing some fruition of that process already through 5 months. Compensation's down just a bit over a year ago, which also impacts our retirement. So all in all, we're tracking as expected. At the end of this month, look at things much more closely with the anticipation to have to bring to the board as we have in prior years, a first budget amendment after the first 6 months of the year. But as we stand now, things are tracking well. The balance sheet side for the general fund, our cash balances are adequate. We made a payment at the end of October on our debt, so we're down to $122 million. This is, again, prior to what was just passed last month in terms of the debt has not been issued yet. And general fund balance, as is the case this early in the year, we get all the property taxes up front, so we're healthy at that point in time. And you also can see our and on capital expenditures, which is, I think, pretty much exclusively safe and dry, which Ken will talk about. So financial perspective, things are tracking as appropriate. Questions?
No.
On Safe and Dry, we are now in the process of bidding a number of projects for the summer. Probably the most critical is the installation portion of the Ottawa High School pool air handler unit replacement. If you remember last month, we approved the bid on the unit itself, which is a 16-week minimum delivery. So we wanted to get that rolling. The second part is the installation portion. Our intent is to put any item that's urgent on the January 18th or 19th board purchase agenda. If they're not urgent, we'll hold them till the January 20th. The other project that's going on that's a large one, it's a combination of one Safe and Dry fund and then will be gone funds is the Coble School renovation, converting to the middle high school cost program. That goes out to bid today. We'll be bidding early January. Intent is to bring that to January final action. And that's a little critical. We're assuming construction will start within a couple of days. Transform Coble from elementary to middle high, and then we open in September. We're working on, we will bring in January also our full One Safe and Dry list. We're updating right now. Typically, we bring it in December, but we wanted to make sure that we coordinate well with all the bond projects and make sure that we've got them identified three places so that we don't have to use video speed. And then, of course, this bond is we're doing a bond plan for like priority projects or home property, built to the planning zone, which is a lot of work.
Excellent. Any questions about the warm, safe, and dry dollars or bond? Okay. And any other reports regarding that? You're working with sustainability regarding this, and regarding our energy report slash facilities report that sort of has fallen by the wayside. Any planning around that, having a discussion, representing that form in the full version now that we have all the data back from last year's expenditures and energy use?
We have all the data, the report is essentially final, and as soon as the last review is done, we'll work on a schedule is put that on it's appropriate to bring back, but probably up to January.
Okay.
But if you want it on that level, if you prefer to just pass out, if you want through the basics, we can review.
Okay. Or the other idea that I've been thinking about, because I had wanted this to be discussed at a higher level, and our current President Baker doesn't really have a sense of the scope of this report, that maybe we bring it to the January work session, if we could. Then that would really help the whole board understand the work you guys have been doing in regard to this, and some planning, and feel like we're having some input. I think people feel like we're not doing a lot in terms of sharing the vision of the board with staff and administration, and I think that that's one way that we can have some conversations regarding that planning.
It's ready to go.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Not for me.
Dr. Flores?
No.
Just make a comment, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Connection with Ken, Safe and Dry, just to
Yeah.
make you aware what's going on the legislative side. I think ever since I've been around, you're aware we've been discussing and supporting the change in the sinking to allow for technology to be spent out of the sinking fund versus having to bond. Debate began this past Wednesday. The proposal that's being debated would allow for that. The major change would be currently sinking funds can ask for up to 5 mills over up to 20 years. It would change the timeline to 3 mills, maximum of 10 years. 170 districts in the state currently sinking fund villages. Only 17 of those ask for more than 3 mills. But you know, we asked for 1 mill, so not likely that time frame and millage change would have a significant. But you also probably aware the legislature went home on Thursday, and it's not likely there'll be any action on this particular issue until after the first debate. On Wednesday was positive. Seems to be both sides of the change, so come the first calendar quarter next year, so keep your breath to that.
Right. And the calendar issues, every 2 years, things die at the end of December, but this year, because it's continuation, then bills can continue on to the new calendar year, which is an interesting nuance that I learned from Winnie Brinks. It's like, why is it not dying this year? And so she gave me an explanation a few months ago, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the other thing I'll mention is the discussion in this, just come to mind now, would not make it retroactive. So in other words, the sinking fund we currently have would still have to follow the old rules until, so not be discussion that would not be retroactive for current sinking funds that they're sinking fund before, if you will, so.
Great, good, thank you. I guess we will call this meeting terminated. Thank you.